Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Jolle, Hill's Pet Nutrition Chief Veterinary Officer with little Chippy, and this is Hill's Pet Talk. Animal shelters are currently wrestling with crisis conditions. In fact, shelters reportedly are in their third year of having too many animals and not enough adoptions. While 82% of consumers agree that there are too many homeless pets, they are hesitant to adopt or are postponing their adoption plans. Joining me today to discuss the state of shelters and how we can help the homeless pet population is Joann Fuller, a senior manager of brand engagement at Hill's and a leader in our Food Shelter Love program, which celebrated its 10-year anniversary this past year. Thank you for joining us, Joann.
Thank you for having me, Jolle.
You are one of my favorite guests because we are going to talk about shelters, and I love that. So I know Hill's recently produced their annual State of Shelter Adoption Report. Can you tell us a little bit more about what this report details?
Certainly, Yola. So the State of Shelter Pet Adoption Report was really aimed at talking to pet parents or potential pet parents, consumers across the country around their attitudes and perceptions when it comes to shelters, adopting from a shelter, bringing a pet into their home, some of the barriers and obstacles that they are facing, but also how they feel about shelters as a point of pet acquisition. With so much going on in the animal welfare world in the last couple of years, and with a steady increase in the number of dogs specifically coming into shelters, we know that adoption rates have slowed down. We know that increases in stray dogs have happened across the course of this year, and population has really started to climb in shelters across the country. And we wanted to better understand what consumers, what people are thinking across the country when it comes to, number one, bringing a new pet into their home, and number two, what source of acquisition, where are they thinking about adopting that pet? So the State of Shelter Pet Adoption Report was really meant to measure their attitudes and perceptions about those things.
Right, and Chippy here, of course, is a famous shelter dog, and he wonders what are some of the barriers that shelters are facing right now that might hurt adoption rates.
Well, we know two things. There's two sets of barriers, right? There's barriers that shelters or animal welfare organizations are encountering within their own facilities. And then, of course, there's barriers that potential pet parents or even current pet parents are thinking about right now when it comes to bringing a pet into the home or even caring for a pet that they already have. From the shelter perspective, I think, like a lot of organizations across the country, shelters are dealing with staffing shortages. And that includes shortages with veterinary healthcare team members who are so important in helping pets get ready to get to the point where they can be adopted. So they're certainly dealing with those pressures and those issues. We also know that transfers of pets between animal welfare organizations, perhaps from an area of the country that has more pets to an area of the country that has fewer pets but a big demand for adoption. We know that those transfer rates have also declined across the last couple of years, and that's increasing the pet population in shelters. So those are both barriers that shelters are facing. But also when it comes to people across the country who either have pets right now or are thinking about adopting pets, they're also looking at a lot of different hurdles and barriers. One of those is, of course, the cost of pet ownership. And that includes veterinary care, but really everything that goes into taking care of a pet. Also, housing restrictions are really something that's a big consideration right now with people thinking about a pet. And then breed sizes and sizes of pets overall are also a consideration. So there's a lot of hurdles and obstacles that people and shelters are facing right now when it comes to thinking about a pet and bringing a pet into their home.
Right, as a consumer, of course, I got a little Chippy when he was really young, and I didn't really know what kind of pet I would get. He obviously is the best pet in the world, but what are consumers wanting from a shelter pet or in a shelter pet?
Well, I think there's several things that they're looking for. Obviously, a pet that comes prepared to enter the home. So if you think about the role of animal welfare organizations in helping pets get ready to be adopted, that includes things like making sure that they are healthy and ready to go home. That includes things like vaccinations and microchipping, and of course, recommending the right nutrition so that pet has its best possible start in moving into the home. So certainly prospective pet parents are thinking about those types of opportunities when they're looking for the right type of pet. But then, as I said, looking at some of the barriers and obstacles to pet ownership right now, they're looking at what size of pet is right for my living environment right now. What type of pet, from a behavioral standpoint, is going to work best with the way that I live my life, but also with my family as well. So those are all considerations that people are thinking about when they're thinking about the possibility of adopting a pet.
Right, and it's a really good point, because when I think about when we got Chippy, one of the reasons that we got a smaller dog was I travel a lot, and I wanted Chippy to be able to travel with me, so he can, and he is. He's a frequent traveler for sure, and his size really helps with that. So thank you for saying that. The question I always want to ask you is, how can people help or support their local shelters?
There are a variety of ways. That is a wonderful question. And I think there are so many different ways for people within the community to step forward, work with their local animal welfare organization, and surround it with support and encouragement. One of the great things that came through the State of Shelter Pet Adoption report that Hills commissioned was people feel very positively about their local animal welfare organization. And as they are looking to adopt a pet, which many of them are considering that, there is a very strong likelihood, according to the report, that they would consider their local shelter as a point of pet acquisition. But beyond just adopting a pet, there are so many other ways that people can support their local shelter or rescue. If they're not able to adopt right now because it's not the right time for them or their family, you can consider fostering a pet on a temporary basis. I know that Chippy, as an example, was fostered, Yola, before you ultimately adopted him. And that is so important for shelters to have that resource from the community of people willing to create a temporary space in their homes for those pets, whether it be for medical reasons or to grow up a little bit like Chippy needed to do, or just because maybe they have some behavioral issues that are addressed better in the home. If you can't foster right now, there's two other very important ways to support your local animal welfare organization. And that would be, of course, donation. Animal welfare organizations are generally nonprofit or municipal organizations, and every dollar is dear. So donations are more than welcome. And then the last way that you can consider supporting your local shelter or rescue is to volunteer your own time. They are always in need of an extra set of hands to do laundry, to walk dogs, and a whole host of other responsibilities that will help that local shelter so much. So adopt, foster, donate, or volunteer. Those are all great ways to help.
That's awesome. And I, of course, want to thank my foster family of little Chippy, because they did such an awesome job with him. So very, very well said. So thank you so much, Joann. Always a pleasure to have you on Hills Pet Talk. And thanks again.
Thank you, Jolle. Bye, Chippy.
Bye-bye. Before we depart today, I also want to highlight all of the shelter workers who dedicate their lives to help pets in need. The relentless strain of the animal shelter crisis has not only affected animals, but also the mental health of caregivers and their veterinary teams who care for these animals. Each day they face the realities of overpopulation, overcrowding, limited resources, and navigating endless difficult decisions. If you or anyone you know from the animal care community is in need of mental health support, please contact the Veterinary Hope Foundation for resources, information, and a community to help better handle the unique challenges of the profession. Until next time, I'm Dr. Jolle, Little Chippy. Thank you for joining us at Hills Pet Talk. And don't forget, science did that.